Okay, we're going to call. Okay.
Oh, that speaker's not. Thanks, Carl.
Yes. And great, it's on now. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Board of Selectmen dated March 26, 2025. It's a fairly small agenda. There will be public comment towards the end of the meeting. We'll start with I am Bob Carlson, the first selectman. We also have Nicole Porter and Selectman Brett Mastriani. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, minutes. Let's approve the minutes. So last week, we couldn't approve one set of minutes because you weren't here, Brett, and the minutes were the minutes from when Nicole wasn't here, so. So it's
I'll
not,
make a motion to approve minutes from March 4th, 2025 and March 18th, 2025.
great. I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 4th, 2025 and March 18th, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I imagine you're abstaining from the first one and you're abstaining from the second one?
No,
Oh, you're gonna.
you can, so that's a little misnomer. You can vote on minutes even if you weren't at the
Yeah.
meeting.
I will be honest and say that I did not go back and look at the tape on YouTube, so
I'm gonna guess that Brett did. I bet you did watch the
I
meeting
did.
because he wanted to see if we passed anything when he wasn't here.
I will say the reason I went back and watched it is Bob said, oh, it was a really quick meeting and we got rid of the purchasing policy. I'm like,
Yeah, so this is just a little selecting humor there. There was nothing meant by that. All right, so it's 2-0-1 for the first set of minutes and 3-0-0 for the second set of minutes. Any comments by either selectman? Okay, first selectman comments, I have none. Trying to keep this meeting to basically one agenda item, which is the changes to the motor vehicle tax formulas. So there's a lot of confusion on this, and I will be honest with you, I was pretty confused about it myself early on, but I want to take a few minutes to discuss it. So because we don't have a big crowd here, and I want to make sure that anyone that watches this meeting understands where I'm coming from on this. And I appreciate that we may have different opinions. So about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I got a notice from the state that they were going to allow us to take an option to do our motor vehicle taxes a different way. This was a result of many hits to the city and towns and municipalities revenue lines, starting with the ECS when the governor brought out his projected budget. The ECS funding, the town of North Stonington lost $96,181. Second thing, there was additional taxes that were tax relief that was given to some of the veterans that were 100% disabled, and that was $52,711 in lost revenue by the town. Third, they voted on keeping early voting for another year, but they weren't going to support it like they were last year. So you saw that the registrar's budgets had to go up because they were no longer paying for early voting. Fourth, there was this change to the motor vehicle tax formula that was going to lower the amount of income tax we could charge on motor vehicles. It was I think it's called the NAHD book. It was a book value they used on vehicles, and they came up with a new formula where you could tax it differently. So I think that through COST, which is the Council of Small Towns, and CCM, which is the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, there was a lot of pushback from cities and towns saying, this is ridiculous. Small towns are being fiscally responsible, and we just keep losing more and more revenue. When I first heard about it, I said, okay, well, listen, I haven't heard about any other town doing this except for Killingly. I saw in the paper, they voted to change over to take the option. I didn't hear about anybody else. I talked to Daryl, the assessor, and I said, Daryl, I don't assume the number is going to be a big number, that you've already signed the grand list and sent it in. Our revenue is not in bad shape. It's better, actually a little higher than it was last year, so it's not in bad shape. And the fact that I see this as a money grab by the town, I didn't feel comfortable that we were going to tax taxpayers more than we should. So for all those reasons, I said, Daryl, I don't want to pursue this at this point. But a week later, I got a hold of what I call the Farm Five. It's my local CEOs from Griswold, Preston, Sterling, and Voluntown. And I said, hey, are you guys doing it with that option? And every one of them said they were going for the option. Except for Voluntown, they were going to do it, but they're going to wait till next year because they have a part-time assessor who isn't going to get back and be able to do the calculations. And they already had their grand list was already signed and sent in. So that's interesting. So I called Stonington. I spoke to Jen Lineweaver, who's their assessor. And then I spoke to Ledyard and said, hey, are you pursuing this? And they said, yes, we're both pursuing it. Okay, so that's 5 out of 6, and one's next year. So really 6 out of 6. The following Wednesday, I went to the Council of Governments meeting, and there was 17 of the 22 cities and towns that were there present that are in the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments. Of that group, 16 of the 17 were pursuing this. They were voting for the option. I said, so what is it that I'm not getting? Why is North Stonington the only town that's not opting? When all these towns lost all this money in revenue, as we did, I mean, we're looking at, again, 96,000 ECS, 5,200 veterans, now an unfunded mandate with early voting, and the motor vehicle, which is what am I not knowing here? So I said to Daryl, can you do me a favor? Can you find out exactly how many dollars we're losing in this change in the motor vehicle tax? He came back about 6 hours later because he had to go through the company who does all our assessing. And they came back with a number of $379,679. Blew me away. I thought we'd be in the neighborhood of maybe 50, 60,000. 379,679. I said, okay, Daryl, that is a number that it's knocking the wind out of me. I can't believe it's that big. We might want to rethink this. Can you also tell me if we went to the option where we charged the extra 5%, how much would we put back in? How much less revenue would we lose? The number is 158,954. So instead of the town losing 379,679, we're still losing 220,725 in tax. Now I agree, it's raising a tax higher than what the state is allowed, but every town, including towns north of us who are considered fiscally responsible towns, very conservative towns, all voted to go this way. So what are we doing differently? So I thought that, well, we should bring it. I also found we could vote on this by the Board of Selectmen. It says the legislative body, but because the new grand list has to be filed by April 15th, they're allowing boards of selectmen or town councils to make this decision. I don't have to go to a town meeting, even though that's our legislative body. And I want to be as transparent, Walters, as possible. My feeling is, yes, it will hurt some people who own vehicles. Could hurt me. I don't know. I didn't do the numbers on it yet. But the town is actually going to still have 220,725 less in automobile taxes as last year. I own 2 vehicles. I'm assuming, I haven't done the math, that my 2 vehicles are a year older. And I'm guessing, again, just guessing, that they'll probably be a little bit less than they were last year because that 220,725 has to come from somewhere. And all the other towns are doing this. So here's what my thought is. If the Board of Finance holds the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen feet to the fire when it comes to the budget, and they say they've already given us direction of bring it down to 4%, and this is not used to put money back into the budget, so now, oh good, now we can spend an extra 158,000. If they hold our feet to the fire as boards and say, we still, even though we got this extra money, we still want you to come in with a very responsible budget, and then use this 158,954 to maybe put the chance of a mill rate going up, maybe less of that happening, right? So now they use the 158,954 to keep the mill rate lower than possibly where it could be. Then they're using the right direction. And if they do that with the mill rate, then all taxpayers in North Stonington are benefiting because now the mill rate's not as high as it could have been. So I'm saying use the 158.94 as revenue. Use it when you figure out eventually the mill rate with the town, but don't use it to add extra money back to the budget. Don't say to the Board of Selectmen, oh, we got this 158, so you don't have to cut the 30,000 anymore. I think we still need to come in with a responsible budget. I won't talk for the Board of Ed because they have to do what they have to do. So my thinking is, if we approve this tonight, we positively affect all taxpayers because it could mean that the mill rate doesn't go up, or it doesn't go up by the same amount it might have been if we didn't have this money. And our revenue gets raised from, I think it's 748,000 to 907,000 change. So tough decision. Again, I do see it a bit as a money grab. Now, the way this works is you take the motor vehicle, whatever it was worth, let's say my truck's 2016 truck. Whatever the MSRP was in 2016, we take 70% off of that number, and then the town can tax at 85% of that number. And then the next year it's 80%, then it goes to 75, 70, and so on. And no car gets taxed for less than 500. Once you hit 500, you just stay there. Now, on the option they're giving the towns is, instead of starting at 85, you can start at 90. So instead of going 85, 80, 75, 70, you start at 90. You can go 90, 85. It's the same thing. It's a 20-year list of downgrades, but you start at 90 instead of 85. So you're saving 5% off the bat. And that's what Hartford is saying. Yes, we hear you're all crying about your revenue. We're going to throw you a bone. We're going to give you this option. You can start at 90 versus 85. That's the difference. And the difference in the bottom line, and I don't know, I just called Daryl to see if I could get specific examples like we do when it comes to houses and mill rates. Tell me what a house at 450 is at a higher mill rate. I wanted to get an example, and I didn't get it today because he was there for a short time. Give me 5 cars and tell me, are they going up or are they going down? And I don't know it. Maybe it varies by the car when you bought it and what the car was at the time. But I just see the bottom line is 220,725 as opposed to 379, 679. So I'm advocating to help all the taxpayers by using the 158,954, if that's what the Board of Finance wants to do, to keep the mill rate lower than to use it to put money back in the budget. And I'd love to have comment from both of you. Go ahead.
So, as you know, I wrestle with this because to me, it is still a tax, right? So obviously it's a tax, and I understand the increased revenue, and I understand why other municipalities would do it, because everyone's seeing a loss somewhere along the way, whether it's evaluations in motor vehicles or something in every town around us is having some budget concerns. So it's easy to say, yes, let's take that money and let's not put it to the taxpayers. I wrestle with us making that decision we don't make the mill rate decision. The town votes on the budget. The Board of Finance sets that mill rate based on that budget. So everything's presented to the town before they get to vote on what that spend is. I'm concerned, and I did ask Bob to try to get some examples from Daryl. I'm worried that we don't have those numbers tonight, and I would really like to see the actual calculation, because based on what I've done, so I did my own vehicle, which is a 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Did you do all 5 or just one?
I just did just one. I
What
know where you're going with
What
that.
was the calculations on the other 4?
I didn't do all.
Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt.
So those are my kids' cars.
You guys haven't paid the taxes on those, so you don't care?
Yeah, they can pay their own taxes on there. But based on this vehicle, and it's the newest vehicle that we have, my tax bill would go up 16% on that car. So right now, in the last tax bill that I was able to see online quickly, my tax bill was $1,115. Based on what I know, so I don't have Daryl's sheet. Under the new plan, my tax bill would go to $1,296 on that vehicle. And that's before any mill rate increase, if that happens with this budget cycle. So I'm concerned that without knowing those calculations, we could be raising a good chunk of the town's taxes, what they would be, or what they were last year, without knowing that implication. And I wrestle with that. I'm not just looking at, because I only use my vehicle as an example, because that's the only numbers I have. So I'm curious to see where that 158 came from. Was it decreased evaluations that we projected under the old rate compared to the new rate? And without that information, I'm not comfortable voting, and I would make a motion to table that until our next meeting, which is on Tuesday.
April 1st.
Right.
But the grand list has to be signed and sent back to the state by April 15th.
Right, so we
it
have-
doesn't give us a lot of time.
I'm not saying it does, but
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable, and I really feel like I'd be a no vote without hard examples, because we always talk about, revenue is not always the problem. We've talked about it on the campaign trail for years. It's our spending and things like that. And if this helps, it makes it look like we should be spending more because we're now doing I won't say it's a backward tax, but we are just deciding to tax more than the state is saying you could tax, or what the recommended rate should be, which in Connecticut we know is tough to begin with. And we also know that they're looking to get rid of this tax eventually. That was a big thing over the past few years. And then everyone was scrambling. What would the municipalities do if they totally get rid of the motor vehicle tax? So I also worry.
So we know what we do. They raise the residential tax. You'd have to, or
You'd have to raise the mill rate.
because the town still has to run.
Right. So that's where I'm thinking we're taking this as a sacrificial bridge, because we actually don't know if next year or through this legislative process, they knock it down even more. And now we're spending based on this tax revenue, and our potential cliff is even higher next year, because they come back and say, you know what, we've redone this, and now you're charging 50% on the value of the sticker compared to the 80 or 90 that you decided last year. And we're knowing that they're looking to try to get rid of this eventually, we're just making it more difficult to do that later on. And basically my perspective is we should let the residents see their mill rate and decide that based on the budget, and not as the three of us say, you know what, we're going to raise your car tax. And now there are the state and there are municipalities that have a mill rate for tax for your cars and one for your property, your houses.
All right. So
We don't. We have one. So
I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree. I would say this, that the 220,725 is coming from somewhere.
right.
So, I mean, even when we did the reval in 2020, not everyone's house went up at the same amount. Some people went up quite a bit. We know that like Kingswood and Cedar Ridge went up quite a bit, and then some of the bigger homes didn't. So I don't think it's always fair, but the bottom line is 220,725 is coming from somewhere. So somebody's car is going down.
Right. So that's where I'd like Daryl to actually give us those numbers.
But unless you do every vehicle in the town, that the numbers are the numbers, that 220,000 is coming from somewhere. So that means there's more people, or like they build Foxwoods, these big buildings. I say to my kids, there's more people losing than winning, or they wouldn't be able to build those
right.
buildings.
So, but is he looking at those numbers as the total assessed car values of what it was last year or what it was this year compared to what it'd be next year? And did we lose cars? Did people unregister vehicles, or did we lose them along the way? And is that in that $250,000
Well,
number?
it just sounds like a big number too. There's always going to be examples of exceptions, right? That somebody sold a car, somebody bought a car, somebody bought a more expensive car. I get that, but that's a big, if it was 50,000, we wouldn't be having this conversation because I wouldn't even go in here. But the fact that it's such a big number, and the fact that I'm going to recommend that when we talk about our budget on April 1st, that we don't say, oh, there's an extra 158. Why don't we just tell the Board of Finance? we
Which
want
I
to put money back in?
totally agree with you, and I'm on board with all those things. So I would be on board with you saying, yeah, if this passes, let's not use that to make that the top line spend number and adjust our budgets back up to where that is. But I just worry that we don't have that number, and I would like that before I raise somebody's taxes other than mine 16% without knowing.
But you might raise 10% of the people's taxes on their cars and lower 90% of the people's. I mean, it's not like this is a zero number. It's 220,000 is coming from somewhere. And I got to say, it's coming from a lot more people's taxes must be going down than going up if we're having that number. And what is it that all the other towns, all the other towns are doing it. Are they all, are we missing something? Are we wrong? Are we right and they're all wrong? And we have some very intelligent assessors in other
Oh, I'm
towns.
not saying they're right or wrong. I'm saying they're using it to supplement their budget because everyone is spending more money these.
But we're also
these
getting,
days.
everyone's getting a lot more revenue cut out of the
Right.
budget.
Well, I mean, if you look at Stonington, their Board of Finance last night cut out an additional $250,000 out of their Board of Ed budget. So they cut $750,000 out of that Board of Ed budget. So they're looking to try to bridge that gap in the car by saying, we're going to bump up the car. That's helping bridge that gap and making their mill rate has been going up significantly because of it. And they're taking money out of their undesignated account. I'm not saying that it might not be the thing to do, but without seeing those numbers and examples, I have a hard time. And I know I'm not the only one in this whole process where their taxes are going to go
Oh, you're
up.
probably not.
So I'd like to see where that where's that point where people's taxes start going down? Because that was the catch. When we first talked about this at one point, it was said that people's taxes were going to even go down this year under the governor's plan, under the new tax plan. And I've never seen numbers based on that either. So even at that number, my taxes would go up a little bit, but not 16%.
And I'll be honest with you, Brett, I think this is a way we should do it. We should have this debate of what, and I'm going to let you join in 1 second. We should have this debate on what makes sense and what doesn't. I would just say that if the Board of Finance holds everyone's feet to the fire when it comes to the budgets, and if they can use this 158 to do something with the mill rate down the road, it helps all taxpayers. That's all I'm saying.
It helps all taxpayers on the backs of others.
Well, that's basically all the people that don't have kids in school pay for school. So that's just the way it is. We don't all have the same opportunity. We don't all have the same bills.
But you know what the difference is, Bob? They get to decide that. They get to decide when they come and vote.
They don't get to decide that they're not paying any taxes for the school.
No, but they get to decide. They vote yes or no on the municipal budget. They vote yes or no on the Board of Education budget. So they get to decide on this. We're deciding for them that this group of people is going to pay more, and we're going to let the mill rate come down for this.
All right. So I'm going to say one more thing before I say to Nicole, what do you got?
Yes, Nicole, I'm ready to hear Nicole.
Because I will say that in the past, there's been many times that you said, we're the elected officials. We're the ones that get elected to make these decisions. And that's just one of those times.
Well, certain decisions, yes. This decision that the governor is saying we could do this because of the small window, it's almost like the COVID when we passed the budget back then. Well, we didn't. The Board of Selectmen was able to pass the budget without the.
So you know, we're a democracy. Whatever comes out, it comes out.
Yeah.
If it passes, that's great. I'm not going to pull and go home if it doesn't
Right.
pass. So
All I'm asking is maybe we just wait till Tuesday and Daryl can give me numbers and show me those examples, and then I'd be.
But he's going to
all
have to
on board.
pick out the right examples. What if I say find 5 that it doesn't work for? Like, how is he going to arbitrarily pick 5 cars out of however many cars in the town of Connecticut?
Well, I guess I need to see how that original number was calculated based on what were the values and what the new one was, and and give us an average. Hey, if your car is 5 years or newer, this is what it looks like for majority of people. If it's 5 to 10 years old, this is what it looks like on average.
So when we took all the vehicles, the good and the bad, the high and the low, we came up with 220,000.
But based on this number, we don't know if originally a lot of cars have gotten older in town. It came that 20 years and below, where now they're an antique and we do them at $500 and they get it's like a $14 tax bill. Maybe that aged out in that number, and maybe it would have been different now, but now we're saying we're going to make up for those. So I don't know what we're making up for without Daryl showing us the numbers. That's all.
Okay. Sorry, Nicole. That was we just cut you right out of the picture. Go ahead.
It's okay. I was just listening and taking it all in. The other night in the Board of Finance, when the recommendation was to go back and bring it down to 4% for both, I thought that I heard the question asked, but I don't remember the answer. If we bring both budgets down to 4%, does that still increase the mill rate?
About 4.8, 0.48%.
0.48?
0.48.
Okay.
the mill rate. I think right around there. I could be off a point something.
So, I
point
mean,
zero
it's
something.
my perception that we and all the taxpayers in town are going to end up paying for it one way or another, whether we pay a little bit more for cars or we pay a little bit more for the mill rate for overall. I'm okay waiting until the April 1st meeting to see if we can take a look at various scenarios to really see the impact. But I will be honest, I am probably in favor of passing it because I think that, to Bob's point, if some people end up having to pay more for their car taxes, but in the end, we're able to control the mill rate a little bit better for the entire town. I am in favor of that, even if it impacts me and my car taxes end up going up.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to waiting until the 1st. If that is, we have to have everything signed and in by the 15th.
The
of
grand list
April.
has to be redone, signed and sent in by April 15th.
Yeah.
If we choose to do this. Now, we can vote no tonight and we don't have it done. We don't have to have this conversation. I don't have to send anything in. We leave the grand list exactly the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I want to vote no either. I'm saying I don't know until I see those numbers. And it might make me a yes, because I don't even know when they say sticker price, MSRP, are they running VINs to see what your actual sticker price for your individual? Does it take the options into account? I don't know, but I think we should know if we're voting to make this change. And Daryl will have those numbers, or he will have those definitions. So that's what I would like for that meeting, if we choose to table it until that meeting, is what is considered the sticker price and what is that process now?
So I think the Board of Finance would like to have this information one way or the other. I know that we're only talking about budgets between tonight, the Board of Ed, and us on April 2nd. But I think they'd still like to have this information sooner instead of later. Now, if you want to, I would prefer to vote tonight only because I don't want to rush this. So I want to make sure we get the grand list in by April 15th. And I don't know what that entails. However, if you prefer, if you run this and we vote no, it's done. It's done and we don't have to talk about it.
But I'm not comfortable voting no either, because I'm just not comfortable voting on the unknown. And to me, based on your statement of you don't want it to affect what the budgets look like and what we have to spend. So the Board of Finance, knowing tonight whether we voted on it, makes no difference in that regard. By next week, it will. But tonight, I don't think it makes a difference for them to know if we upped at 150, if it's not changing the way they want to look at the budget, or that you ask them not to look at the budget.
Well, they're going to know that we didn't vote on it because there's two Board of Finance members here right now.
No, but what I'm saying is, either way, if in your mind that wasn't changing the way they're looking at the budgets and the expenditures and the increases in the budget, then it doesn't matter if they know tonight or not that we're increasing our revenue $158,000. They would only need to know that next week, even if we wanted to use that for their calculation of what people should spend.
So why don't you make a motion make a motion to table this to next Monday, next Tuesday, if you want.
All right, so I'll make a motion to table this to Tuesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any other discussion?
I think I discussed it enough.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. I say no. And there's no else. So it's 2-1-0. We will not vote on this evening. With that said, are there any public comments? Go ahead, Brian.
It's best to just hold it.
Okay,
Like by your mouth.
all right. As far as taxes go, I think our taxes are going to go up anyway, simply because it's a reval year, but it's non-physical reval year. And when I talked to Daryl, he said that what they do is whoever does the reval is going to figure out how much per square foot. And then, but he was talking about the newer houses that have been built, that those people are going to really get hit. He said, I probably won't get hit too bad because I got an old house. But it seems to be a trend because I look at my registration for my truck, there's $35 worth of extra tax on that. I look at my electric bill. Everybody's been yelling about that, and it just stays the same. It keeps going. So to me, I say, don't give me an extra tax. I hate hidden taxes, you know, and that's all I am as a taxpayer. I have no other requirement. I'm not a veteran. I worked my 60 years, and the money I have is what I have, and plus what the government gives me. But anyways, that's my 2 points on it as far as it's just another hidden tax. And I think you ought to just bring it up so the Board of Finance knows about it too.
So are you saying that you agree we should not go to the option? We should have just stayed the way we are and not go to the option? Or so are you saying we should go to the option?
Yeah, don't go to the option
So
because it's
leave
just
it-
an extra tax.
Leave it the way it is. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just click it once.
Okay. Any other public comment online or in the audience? Okay.
Alan's the only one online, so.
Okay, and he lives in Preston, so he doesn't get a vote. Okay, hearing none, our next meeting is April 1st. I will,
Are we re-reviewing the Board of Selectmen budget at that point? on that?
April
Okay,
1st.
thank you.
Yeah, that, I sent you an email with my suggested reductions. Also, in addition, from the fire company, I think I sent you, what transpired there. So if you can put a list together, my list probably isn't perfect. Put a list of what you think. Could be take things up, down, whatever you want to do. And we'll do that on April 1st.
Okay.
Bob, just quick on that one. Is that, so on Monday when we talk about that and we vote to send it
Tuesday?
on Tuesday, sorry. I don't know why I keep thinking Monday. Are we voting to show them what it would look like? Or are we voting for what it really,
I want to vote
what
on,
our
I want to vote on
budget
the
should
actual
be? Okay.
reductions, so we're done. So, yeah, it's not like, what would this look like at 4? Because I want to do all the reductions, and the number might be 3.89. I don't know what,
Right.
it might not be 4. I'm guessing it's going to be 4 or lower when we get done, because with my suggestions, it's under 4.
Right. Yeah, that's how I take it.
I'd rather
I
just
think-
give them the budget we think is the budget
Right.
and be done with it, rather than this is what it might look like, and.
All right. I agree 100%. I just know their motion was to show us what it would look like. And I know that's, I think was the Board of Ed's motion to show them what it would look like, but not, so then it would have to go back to the.
I was just going to
Board of
say,
Ed,
if
right?
they decide, no, we think you've cut too much, we want you to put something else back in, then I think it comes back
Right.
to us and we have to read.
Yeah, I want them to feel comfortable that we're giving them a final budget, and then this is what we think it should be, and I'm not opposed to reducing it. I do have to add, I'm gonna also suggest we add some money back in from the fire company, and I think Brett might have had something from the rec, I'm not sure. So we're adding a little bit back in and then taking it out, and when it's all said and done, I just want to be at 4 or under 4, but give them the final budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just so we have a minute or so, but since you brought that up, I'd rather get that people confused about what you said about adding stuff in. So I was one of the people that run a program for the rec department reached out and said, hey, they're looking to do some additional programs, and that in the budget, it was only $8,000. And they really think it should be near $12,000 of based on what they charge. So basically, and they said that they never really even talked to the rec about what that number should look like. It was just put in there for them. But it wouldn't affect the overall budget because we would show the revenue coming in and then the revenue going out. So they did ask for a $4,000 bump in that, but we'd have to bump up the revenue too. So I just don't want people out there thinking that we're going to just throw in more rec money.
Okay.
That revenue will show that side,
Okay.
and we'll bring it up at the meeting.
All right. Anything else? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I hear a
Thank you.
second?
Second.
Okay, we're going to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to adjourn at 6.